Hi, Ryan. I wanted to start off by saying thank you for letting me respond to your essay. You had a lot of really great analysis, and we shared a lot of the similar ideas, so I appreciated getting to read somebody's response that kind of resonated with the ideas that I came to after reading the essay and responding to the videos. So thank you for that. So jumping right in, I want to say that I definitely agree with you, this idea that Kierkegaard is really relatable to a lot of students right now, this idea of this depression that a lot of kids go through and all this external pressure, especially parental pressure, like you mentioned. I mentioned that within my own response, is this kind of idea that your parents they drive a lot of your decisions, at least within your younger life, which I think is kind of hard, but it's a good way to make informed decisions. But it's also hard because you never really get that existential kind of idea that you're thinking for yourself and you're making your decision based solely on what's going on within yourself rather than just what's going on in society. So I appreciate you responding to that, because I kind of had the same idea as that parents are acting in their best interest, but when we look at Kierkegaard's ideas, we see that it's allowing for students to make a completely biased decision, especially when going to college, just based off of the influence of their parents, rather than the idea that students could just discover their own sense of freedom and kind of make the decision based off of what they think is actually best for themselves, not necessarily based on the opinions of any other people. So I appreciated you getting to responding to that, because I had the similar ideas. I think that your idea about having a unit within a high school curriculum about Kierkegaard's ideas, I think that that would be really beneficial to a lot of students, because, again, like I was saying before, is it would allow these students to move away from what society imprints as like the most important. This is the way that you have to do things. This is the way that it works. This is how you make money. This is how you're successful in society, and allows for students to take a step back and kind of acknowledge what they believe are their true passions, and what they believe will make them successful in life, regardless of whether or not that's success in a conventional term or success in their own minds. So I think that that would be really beneficial. I know when I was in high school, that would have been a really big acknowledging factor, is realizing that the things I thought were really, really important at that time in my life were really just not at all. And I look back on it now and I'm kind of like, why did I put so much pressure on myself for that one thing when it really doesn't impact my life now? So I think that that would be really useful to students, although I think it's a little hard to grasp if you're not like totally into it and you're really thinking deeply about it. But I agree with you. I think it would be a really interesting idea to put that into school. And then, so you mentioned this idea that if all people studied Kierkegaard, what would society be like, and would the world be easier today? And I think that more people would, honestly, like, this is the thought that I had when I read that within your response, is this idea that I think more people would quit their jobs, because a lot of people base their occupation based off of gaining money, so that because they think that money is going to make them happy, or that money is going to allow them to do the things that will make them happy. But I think that people would look deeper down in themselves and see, like, who am I, and how does my job impact my life? But anyways, I think that they would quit their jobs and they would probably follow more what they're actually passionate about, rather than just what they need to make money. And I think it would be they would not follow necessarily what is painted as right in society. I think that allowing people to acknowledge and understand their freedom as an individual would allow for more people to follow what they actually want to do in life, rather than just doing what they think is right, which this module wasn't really necessarily about occupations and stuff, but I think that that really resonated with me, is this kind of idea that a lot of people do what they think they're supposed to do rather than what they want to do. So I think that that's really interesting. This idea is that I think it would be easier because people would be doing what they actually like to do, and people would be happier. Then you talked about journaling, and I highly recommend it. It's a really good way to have some self-reflection at the end of each day and kind of become more in tune with who you are, and especially about how you're feeling. I know for me, it's like a really good way to be really raw and vulnerable with my own self, and kind of just acknowledge what's been hurting me during the day, and allow me to get down to my core and really start to acknowledge, or at least start my journey towards discovering who I am and developing my consciousness. A lot of this self-reflection idea allowing me to further develop my ideas. I also, like you, thought it was really interesting that this idea of truth coming from knowing yourself, but then the statement within the essay was that we don't know ourselves. So how, my question was, how can we develop a sense of truth and understand truth if we don't know ourselves? So I, like you, was kind of confused at that idea, because it was kind of like, I don't understand how we can have any sense of truth if, we claim to not know ourselves. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's that we don't know ourselves because we can't find our truth, because a lot of the time people are wrapped up in society and how society's going to view them, rather than just accepting what's correct for themselves and acknowledging their own ability to be free as an individual, and doubting what they know so that they can go further and further towards freedom as an individual. I think that another thing you presented was kind of this idea of like why people aren't more truthful with themselves, and why self-doubt isn't necessarily as prevalent in society as it should be, because it's what ultimately leads us to developing our sense of self and stuff like that. And I definitely think it's because this idea of fantasies are easier to understand and to swallow in a sense, and they don't force this idea of self-doubt. It's, when you said that you can't handle the truth, that really clicked something on in my brain, is, a lot of the time I think about it, and it's like, yeah, in that moment, that wouldn't have been the right thing to do, is I would not have been able to handle the exact truth of what was going on. And so I just think it's really interesting that we need to learn to accept the truth first, because then in accepting the truth, what's actually correct within our lives, we're acknowledging our self-doubt, and we're starting to develop a better understanding of knowing ourselves. Anyways, I really appreciated getting to respond to your essay. You had a lot of really great ideas that provoked some really interesting thoughts in myself. So thank you.